The air was heavy with sterile silence as the faint beeping of machines echoed through the room. Jack's eyelids fluttered open, the stark white of the hospital ceiling blurring in and out of focus. His body felt foreign, weighed down and achy, as if gravity itself had doubled in strength. He tried to move his fingers, then his toes. A dull pain radiated through his limbs, but he managed a shallow breath. Where was he? What had happened? Memories teased him from the edges of his mind, fragments of screeching tires, his wife Lily's scream, and the sickening crunch of metal against metal. Then, blackness. Welcome to Storytelling and Beyond, where we bring you tales of kindness, resilience, and humanity's remarkable spirit. If you're enjoying this journey with us, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support helps us continue sharing these meaningful stories. As the antiseptic smell of the room registered, Jack's confusion deepened. His gaze drifted to the window where the late afternoon sun streamed through pale blinds, casting golden stripes on the tiled floor. He wasn't dead. That much was clear. Yet the deep ache in his chest and the heavy bandages on his torso told him he had come dangerously close. Slowly, he turned his head, wincing at the sharp jab of pain in his neck, and noticed the machines he was hooked up to. Each beep seemed to echo his heartbeat, steady but weak. Jack's thoughts drifted to Lily. Where was she? Was she hurt? Panic bubbled up, but he reminded himself to stay calm. She would be here soon, he reasoned. Lily wouldn't leave his side, she had always been his rock, the unwavering support in his life. A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. A nurse stepped in, her face warm but professional. "Good evening, Mr. Thornton," she said softly, checking his chart. "You've been through quite the ordeal, but you're stable now. We'll continue monitoring you closely. If you need anything, just press the call button." "Lily," Jack croaked, his throat dry and voice barely audible. The nurse smiled. "Your wife was here earlier," she replied. "She stepped out for some air. I'm sure she'll be back shortly." Jack nodded weakly, letting the nurse finish her tasks. She adjusted his fluffed the pillow behind his head, and left with a kind smile. The silence returned, this time heavier, laden with anticipation. His eyes drifted to the clock on the wall. Minutes felt like hours. Every sound from the hallway sent his heart racing, hoping it was Lily returning. Then, faintly, he heard her voice. Jack's ears perked up, and he strained to listen. It was muffled, the sound of her words distorted by the walls, but the tone was unmistakable. Relief washed over him at first, she was here. She was safe. He closed his eyes, letting himself relax into the pillows. But then, something shifted. Her voice grew sharper, less comforting. Jack's brow furrowed as he caught snippets of her conversation. It wasn't the worried, loving tone he had expected. It was cold, detached, almost calculating. "Everything's covered," she said, her words just clear enough to send a chill down his spine. "The insurance will handle the costs, and once it's over, well, I'll finally be free." Jack's heart began to race, the monitor beside him betraying his rising panic. What was she talking about? The pounding in his chest felt louder than the machines around him. He opened his eyes, staring at the ceiling as fragments of her words reached him through the door. "I've waited long enough," she continued, her voice dropping into an ominous whisper. Jack's mind reeled, trying to piece it together. She couldn't be talking about him. This had to be a misunderstanding, a cruel coincidence. But the pit forming in his stomach said otherwise. The door creaked open, and Lily stepped into the room. Her face was a mask of concern, her eyes wide and glistening as if she'd been crying. "Jack," she breathed, rushing to his side. She grasped his hand, her touch warm but now feeling like a weight he couldn't bear. "You're awake. Thank God." Jack stared at her, his heart pounding harder with each second. His instincts screamed at him to say something, confront her, demand answers. But another part of him, the part that trusted her implicitly, hesitated. Was it possible he had misheard? No. Her tone, her words, they were deliberate. Instead, Jack closed his eyes, letting his head sink back into the pillow. For now, he decided, it was better to stay quiet, to pretend he hadn't heard anything at all. His life might depend on it. The faint hum of the air conditioner filled the room as Jack remained still, his eyes closed and his breathing measured. He had no choice but to continue the act, pretending he hadn't heard anything. He replayed the fragments of Lily's conversation in his mind, trying to convince himself that there was some logical explanation. But deep down, the chill running through his veins told him otherwise. Outside the room, her voice drifted through the door again. Jack strained to listen, keeping his face relaxed and his body still. This time, it was sharper, more insistent. "No, I told you, it's just a matter of time," she said. There was a pause, as though she was listening to someone on the other end of the line. Her tone softened, almost conspiratorial. "The insurance covers everything. Once he's gone, there's nothing left to worry about. The house, the accounts, it's all mine." Jack felt a surge of nausea. He had spent years building a life with Lily, trusting her with everything he had. And now, here she was, talking about him as though he were already dead, as though he were just a line item in her future plans. The betrayal was sharper than any physical pain he felt. The door creaked open again, and Lily entered. Jack forced his body to remain limp, his breaths shallow but steady. She walked to his bedside, her heels clicking softly on the tiled floor. He could feel her gaze on him, studying his face for signs of wakefulness. "Oh, Jack," she whispered, her voice dripping with faux concern. She reached out, brushing his hair back gently, and he felt her fingertips linger a moment too long. "You've been through so much. I just want you to rest." He wanted to recoil from her touch, to open his eyes and demand answers. But instead, he stayed still, letting her believe the charade. Lily sat down in the chair beside him, pulling out her phone. He could hear her tapping away, likely texting whoever she had been talking to earlier. The soft ding of an incoming message broke the silence, and she let out a quiet laugh. "We'll have everything soon," she muttered under her breath, barely audible but clear enough for Jack to hear. His heart pounded against his ribs, the monitor beeping slightly faster. She glanced at the machine, her brow furrowing. "Relax, Jack," she said softly, as if soothing a child. "You'll feel better soon. I promise." Her words were meant to comfort, but to Jack, they were laced with venom. He realized then that he couldn't trust her, not anymore. He needed to figure out what was happening and how to protect himself. His mind raced with possibilities, but he knew one thing for certain, he couldn't let her know he was on to her. For the next hour, Lily sat by his side, flipping through a magazine and occasionally glancing at her phone. She spoke to him now and then, meaningless words about how lucky he was to have survived and how the doctors were doing everything they could. To anyone else, she would have seemed like a devoted, caring wife. But to Jack, her presence was suffocating, her every word a reminder of her betrayal. Finally, Lily stood, smoothing her dress and picking up her purse. "I'll be back later," she said, leaning down to press a kiss to his forehead. "Get some rest." Jack waited until he was sure she was gone before he opened his eyes. The room was empty, the silence almost deafening. His body trembled as he exhaled shakily, his mind still reeling from everything he had overheard. The woman he had loved and trusted with his life was plotting against him, waiting for him to die so she could claim whatever she thought was hers. But Jack wasn't going to let her win. Whatever strength he had left, he would use to fight back. He didn't know how yet, but one thing was clear, he had to survive. The following days felt like an intricate game of survival. Jack lay still in his hospital bed, his body battered but his mind sharper than ever. He knew he couldn't confront Lily outright, she was far too calculating for that. Instead, He played the role of the fragile patient, weak and unaware, while he pieced together her plan bit by bit. Each time Lily entered the room, her voice carried that same syrupy sweetness, but Jack listened carefully, looking for cracks in her facade. Between her visits, he eavesdropped on her conversations with nurses and overheard her furtive phone calls. It was during one of these calls that he first heard the name Todd. "Everything's in place," Lily said quietly, her voice low but unmistakably firm. "I've already spoken to the lawyer. Todd, you need to be patient. He won't last long, not in this condition. And if he does, the doctor said he's likely to have memory issues. He won't even know what's happening." Jack's stomach churned. Todd wasn't just some random acquaintance. He was part of this, part of her scheme. But what was their connection? A lover? A co-conspirator? Either way, it was clear they were working together, and Jack was their target. Lily's behavior in the room became increasingly unsettling. She would hold his hand, stroking it gently, her eyes glistening with tears that now felt utterly insincere. "I can't bear to see you like this," she'd murmur, her voice cracking just enough to sound believable. But when she thought he was asleep, her tone would change. One evening, Jack felt her fingers press against his wrist as she checked his pulse. The way she lingered, as if waiting for something, sent a chill down his spine. When she thought he couldn't hear, she whispered under her breath, "It'll be over soon." Jack knew he couldn't afford to be passive any longer. He started storing his medication under his tongue during her visits, spitting the pills out later and hiding them under the mattress. The side effects of the drugs left him too weak and drowsy to act, and he needed his strength to carry out whatever plan he could muster. The hospital staff became unwitting players in his silent battle. He observed their routines, noting when they changed shifts and which nurses were more attentive. There was one nurse, in particular, a middle-aged woman named Clara, who seemed to genuinely care about her patients. Her kind eyes and no-nonsense attitude gave Jack a glimmer of hope. If he could trust anyone, it might be her. Late one night, when Lily had left and the floor was quiet, Clara came in to check his vitals. Jack mustered all his courage and whispered, "Please, don't react." Clara paused, her brow furrowing, but she didn't say a word. Jack continued, his voice barely audible. "I'm in danger. I need your help." Her eyes widened, but she kept her composure. She nodded slightly, leaning closer to adjust his fore. "I'll come back when it's safe to talk," she whispered. Relief flooded Jack's chest. It wasn't much, but it was a start. For the first time since waking up in this nightmare, he felt like he had an ally. Over the next few days, Jack and Clara worked out a subtle system of communication. She would leave him small notes folded inside his meal trays, and he would respond by scribbling on the back of the menu card. Together, they began to formulate a plan. Jack would need more than just Clara's help, he needed someone outside the hospital who could take action. One evening, Clara slipped Jack a burner phone. "Use this," her note read. "But only when you're alone." Jack hid the phone under his pillow, waiting for the perfect moment to make his move. That night, Lily stayed longer than usual, her demeanor unusually tense. "Todd thinks I'm dragging this out," she said, pacing the room as though Jack wasn't there. "He doesn't understand how careful we have to be. If Jack regains enough strength to talk, everything falls apart." Her words lit a fire in Jack. She wasn't just waiting for him to die, she was actively plotting to ensure he wouldn't recover. The stakes had never been higher. He clenched his fists under the blanket, vowing to himself that he wouldn't let her win. As soon as Lily left, Jack pulled the phone from under his pillow and dialed the only person he knew he could trust, his best friend, Tom. The line rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Hello." "Tom," Jack whispered, his voice shaking. "It's me. I need your help." Tom's voice was a lifeline, steady and firm, cutting through the storm of fear that had consumed Jack. "Jack. Is that you? What's going on?" Jack's throat tightened. He glanced at the door, listening for any sign of Lily's return. The hallway was quiet, but every second felt like a gamble. "Tom, I don't have much time," he whispered. "I'm in the hospital, and something's wrong. Lily, she's not who I thought she was. I overheard her. She's planning something, and I think she wants me gone, for good." There was a pause on the line, heavy with disbelief. "Jack, are you sure?" Tom finally asked, his voice tinged with concern. "This is serious. Are you certain you didn't mishear or misunderstand?" Jack clenched his fist, frustration mingling with desperation. "I wish I were wrong, Tom, but I'm not. She's been talking to someone named Todd. They're planning to cash in on my insurance and, she's waiting for me to die. I need your help to prove it. Please, I can't do this alone." Tom didn't hesitate. "All right. I'm with you. What do you need me to do?" Jack exhaled, relief washing over him. "Start with Todd. Find out who he is, where he works, anything you can. And I need you to dig into Lily's finances, her calls, anything suspicious. She's careful, but she might have slipped up somewhere." "I'll get on it," Tom said firmly. "And Jack, hang in there. You're stronger than this. We'll get through it together." The call ended, leaving Jack alone once more, but this time, he felt a flicker of hope. Tom was resourceful and loyal, the kind of friend who wouldn't stop until he uncovered the truth. The next day, Lily returned with her usual facade of concern, but Jack noticed subtle changes. Her patience seemed thinner, her glances toward the machines more frequent. She wasn't just waiting, she was watching for something, calculating every move. Meanwhile, Clara continued to support Jack in the background. She had slipped him another note earlier that day, letting him know she had arranged for a security camera to be discreetly installed in the room. "If she tries anything, we'll have proof," the note had read. Jack's gratitude for her grew with every passing hour. Later that evening, Tom called the burner phone. Jack answered quickly, his voice low. "What did you find?" "You were right," Tom said grimly. "Todd's her co-worker at the insurance firm. They've been seen together outside of work, too, restaurants, late-night meetings. It's clear they're more than just colleagues. And Jack, there's more. Lily took out a supplemental insurance policy on you 2 months ago. A big one. She forged your signature on the paperwork." Jack's chest tightened. He had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed made it feel even more real. "Is there any way to prove it?" "I've got a contact who's good with forensics," Tom replied. "I'll get them to analyze the documents. In the meantime, you need to stay safe. Do not let her know you're on to her." Jack nodded to himself, his resolve hardening. "Thanks, Tom. I owe you." The call ended, and Jack tucked the phone away, his mind racing. He knew time was running out. Lily and Todd wouldn't wait forever, and if she sensed even a hint of his awareness, she might accelerate her plans. That night, Lily lingered longer than usual. She sat by his bedside, holding his hand, her smile tight. "Jack," she said softly, "you've been through so much. I just want you to know that I'll always be here for you." The words felt like poison, each one sharper than the last. Jack forced his face to remain neutral, his breathing even. He couldn't let her see the anger, the fear simmering beneath the surface. As Lily left, Jack caught a glimpse of her reflection in the glass door. For a split second, her expression twisted, cold and impatient. It was the real Lily, unmasked, and it sent a shiver down his spine. Once she was gone, Jack turned to the camera Clara had hidden. He hoped it had captured enough to raise questions, enough to make someone look closer. His survival now hinged on a delicate balance, gathering evidence, staying ahead of Lily, and holding on to the slim thread of hope that justice would prevail. Jack closed his eyes, willing himself to stay strong. The battle wasn't over yet. The day of reckoning arrived sooner than Jack had anticipated. The tension in the air was palpable, every sound in the hospital room amplified in his mind. He had spent the previous night awake, thinking through every possible outcome. Lily's patience was wearing thin, and he knew it. Whatever she was planning, it was about to unfold. Mid-morning, Lily entered the room, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. Her demeanor was different, calm but almost detached. She glanced at Jack with a faint smile, her eyes scanning the machines. "How are you feeling today, sweetheart?" she asked, her tone dripping with concern. Jack mumbled a faint response, playing the role of a weary patient. But inside, he was ready. The burner phone was hidden under his pillow, the camera Clara had installed was operational, and Tom had promised to be nearby, waiting for Jack's signal. A nurse entered the room to check Jack's vitals. It wasn't Clara, but a younger nurse Jack didn't recognize. Lily smiled at her, but Jack noticed the way her fingers tapped against her purse, a nervous tic she rarely displayed. The nurse finished quickly and left, leaving them alone. Lily pulled a chair closer to his bed and leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Jack, I've been thinking a lot about us," she began. Her words were careful, measured. "I want you to know that no matter what happens, I only want what's best for you." Jack's heart pounded, but he kept his face blank. "What's best for me?" he croaked, his voice weak. She nodded, her eyes scanning his face for any sign of resistance. "You've been through so much. It's not fair to see you suffer like this. The doctors, they've been honest with me. They don't think you'll recover fully." She paused, her hand reaching for his. "I just want to ease your pain, Jack. To give you peace." The words were chilling, not because of their sentiment but because of the cold calculation behind them. Jack didn't respond, letting the silence stretch between them. He needed her to keep talking, to expose herself further. Lily took a deep breath, glancing toward the door before continuing. "I spoke to Dr. Harding," she said softly. "He mentioned a way to help you along. Something painless. Something that would let you rest." Jack felt his stomach drop. She was trying to justify it, to paint herself as the caring wife making an impossible choice. But he saw through the act. She wasn't doing this for him, she was doing it for herself. Before he could respond, the door opened, and Clara entered, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp. "Good morning, Mrs. Dawson," she said cheerfully. "Just here to check on Mr. Dawson." Lily straightened, her expression shifting instantly. "Of course," she said, stepping back. "I'll give you a moment." Clara moved to Jack's side, her hands brisk but gentle as she adjusted his fore. She leaned close, her voice a whisper. "Tom's here," she murmured. "It's time." Jack nodded imperceptibly, his heart racing. Clara left the room, and Lily returned, her smile more strained now. "You look tired, Jack," she said. "Why don't you rest?" "I'll stay with you." He closed his eyes, feigning exhaustion. A few minutes later, the door creaked open again, but this time it wasn't Clara or another nurse. It was Tom, flanked by two plainclothes officers. "Lily Dawson," one of them said, his voice firm. Lily turned, her face pale. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice shaking. "We have reason to believe you've been plotting harm against your husband," the officer said. "We'd like you to come with us for questioning." Lily's composure cracked. "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "Jack's my husband. I've done nothing but care for him." Tom stepped forward, his face hard. "Save it, Lily. We've got the insurance documents, the calls with Todd, and everything Jack recorded here. It's over." Jack opened his eyes then, meeting Lily's gaze for the first time. Her expression shifted from shock to fury. "You were awake?" she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. Every word, Jack said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. You underestimated me, Lily. And you'll pay for it. The officers escorted Lily out of the room, her protests fading down the hallway. Tom approached Jack's bedside, his expression softening. You did it, buddy, he said. It's over. Jack exhaled shakily, relief washing over him. I couldn't have done it without you, he murmured. Clara entered moments later, her smile warm. You're safe now, she said gently. As the reality of his survival sank in, Jack felt a wave of gratitude, not just for Tom and Clara but for the second chance he'd been given. He had faced betrayal, fear, and near death, but he had emerged stronger. That night, as he lay in his hospital bed, Jack vowed to rebuild his life. It wouldn't be easy, but he knew he wasn't alone. Compassion and loyalty had saved him, and now it was his turn to embrace the life he almost lost. Thank you for staying with us through this gripping story of resilience and justice. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to Storytelling and Beyond for more inspirational tales like this one. Your support keeps these stories alive. See you in the next one.